What's going on? We are back for episode 4 of the Entertainment Fusion today. With me today, I have Bill. What's going on, Bill?
Hey, everybody, it's Bill Van Vagel. Normally, I'm on the air talking about horror movies, but today I get to talk about one of my passions, hockey. And so I am psyched. I get to meet Tom. We've been chatting back and forth for a while. Let's talk some hockey. Let's talk what's trending. Let's talk about the players, who you like, who you don't, your history with hockey, whatever. Let's get her going.
Everything hockey.
Everything ice hockey. I hate saying ice hockey because you know what? What other kind of hockey is there? I'm not playing fucking field hockey.
Street hockey.
Oh, I guess street hockey or roller hockey or something. But to me, it's hockey.
Well, to me, it's all hockey. I feel the same way. So before we really, have a lot of fun with this and talk about different players and different teams and our projections and things like that, I want to start off by talking about COVID first. Unfortunately, we can't ignore COVID. The first thing I want to talk about is your feelings in regards to the past championship. I feel now I'm a Bruins fan. I know you're Canadians, so man, killing me with the Canadians. Anyway, the Bruins were actually projected to win last year. They were projected to win the whole thing. And I have to be honest, Bill, I am glad they didn't win, and I will tell you why. I'm glad they didn't win because I feel whoever won the championship, it's always going to be looked at as a tainted championship. Due to COVID, it wasn't a full season. Things just weren't the way they should have been, and because of that, I'm actually glad Boston didn't win.
See, I'll disagree with saying that Tampa didn't earn because they went through trials and travails that no other team has that's won. Yes, everybody got in, and, it was a very homogenized playoff, et cetera, et cetera. But they had to deal with adversity and overcoming things that no other Stanley Cup team has ever won, except for maybe the team with the Montreal Canadiens when they won. I didn't mean to bring that up, but when they won because of the Spanish flu back in 1917. Like, there's no other team that had to deal with living in a bubble, that had to deal with living in such a homogenized environment. Like the strains on their family, their personal well-being, not knowing what's going on, having player X being out, having player Y choose to leave. So, okay, sure, you can give them that I didn't win because of the environment and everybody got in, but Tampa earned that Stanley Cup.
Okay, I agree in the sense that they did earn it. They did work hard, but I don't know. I just feel like due to the fact that everybody got in, due to the fact that it was cut short due to COVID, there were so many restrictions and things like that. I just feel like 10 years from now, 15 years from now, people are gonna look back at the season and be like, you know what? It's not a real championship. They didn't win 100 plus games to get the Stanley Cup. They won like 25. That's just how I feel people are going to look at it.
That may be, but I give them all the kudos for winning. Because if that was the case, anybody should have been able to win the Cup. And they didn't. Tampa Bay beat what was presented to them. They used the system that was given them, and they didn't have any advantage that any other team didn't have. And they were the one that won the Cup. So you know what? What sucks for them is they didn't get to do it in front of their home fans. They didn't get to do it in front of any fans. They had to raise the Stanley Cup and skate around an empty rink, which sucks.
That's tough too.
I didn't even think of that. And you know what? Their coaching staff and both coaching staffs, Dallas is just as much, had to deal with how do you scout a team that hadn't played in 3 months? How do you get your team motivated? How do you get a team that defenseman X all of a sudden can't play because they didn't pass the COVID test? So I hear what you're saying. It will get the asterisk in some people's minds, but not in my mind. They deserved and they overcame I was pissed off when Montreal. I mean, Montreal got in as a Habs fan when they shouldn't have, but they took that advantage. They took that advantage, and they went around against a very higher seeded Pittsburgh team. So in some ways, the playoffs were more exciting. And any team that lasted till the end, it was just a slugfest and a game of attrition. And Tampa won the game of attrition. It was the battle of the bulge of the NHL, really.
Okay, that's fair. I can agree with part of that. As far as Montreal, I mean, I think Montreal knew that they weren't really supposed to be there, and they really did step it up quite a bit because their team is not nearly as stacked as some other teams. Like,
no, they were playing with house money, and they were like, "What the hell?" They had a bunch of kids. They had Kotkaniemi, they had Suzuki, they had these guys that really shouldn't have been there if the season ended. You go with the flow. I mean, Pittsburgh should have walked all over them. You know, they are the ones that play like crap.
Pittsburgh? I mean, look at Pittsburgh's team. For Pittsburgh to play like crap too. I mean, again, and you know, Montreal's our rival, you know, so this isn't a home boy thing. It's not that, but I mean, you got to look at it the way it is. You look at a team like Pittsburgh, for example. Pittsburgh's roster is so stacked in comparison to Montreal's roster. I mean, you got, like him or hate him, I personally can't stand the guy, but you have somebody like Crosby, you have Malkin, you have
Chris
Kessel.
Letang.
I mean, you got Letang also. I mean, the people, the roster that they have is just ridiculous, you know. And by right, the roster they have, they should be able to go to the finals almost every year with the roster they have. It's crazy, and you know, so Pittsburgh definitely dropped the ball there.
They miss Fleury more than they'll admit.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, you can argue right now, Fleury is number one goalie in the NHL.
Maybe.
Stats wise, you look at the stats. There's no goalie that's can touch. And I wouldn't say can touch, but he is the leader in many goaltending categories.
Okay, I agree with that. Before moving on, you know, bringing it back to COVID real quick.
Yeah, and to be honest, the COVID conversation could be a half-hour conversation. There's lots of things.
It could. I have a very unpopular opinion. Very unpopular. You may disagree with me. You might agree with me. We'll see. I personally, when I found out that the NHL or just sports in general were coming back when they did, I didn't agree. I didn't want the NHL to come back when it did. I wanted, I think it came back too early. I know people really wanted sports. You know, some people were like, oh, just bring sports back. We need something during the quarantine. I thought it shouldn't have come back when it did, in my opinion. I think, if anything, that whole season should have been basically washed away, unfortunately. And then you try to come to the following season, which would have been this season. So what are your thoughts on that?
I see both sides of it. Like myself, I'm a rather conservative person. I'm really conservative with my family when it comes to dealing with COVID. We have a very small bubble. My daughter, I have a 5-year-old daughter. She has one friend that she's seen in the last 5 months. So I get that 100% completely, and I will never make fun of anybody for feeling that way. Having said that, it sure damn well felt good watching hockey. It
did. I can't disagree.
And you know what? It felt weird watching hockey in July. You know, it was weird. And even, what did it go till? Early August? And you're like,
something like that.
The only kids that ever played hockey, like for anybody watching, I live in Canada. I live in Southern Ontario. I live 35, 40 minutes east of Toronto. There are kids here that play hockey in August. Like, it's not unusual to have a rink open and kids will play because there's summer hockey. The junior leagues are ramping up for their September opening. Like, it happens. But to actually, as somebody sitting out having a cold beverage, watching hockey, it was weird. But at the same time, it was good because there was nothing else going. So it got you through it. So, you know, I see both sides of it. You know, I can understand not wanting to play, and I do not blame any player that said, no, I'm going to spend time with my wife, I'm going to spend time with my kids, I want to spend time with my family. But those that as long as the NHL took every precaution humanly possible that they knew about, I don't mind that they played. And actually, the players that played, there was an article the other day on ESPN that I sent to all my friends about the mental toll of the players that are right now playing, because each team now I think pretty much has a team psychologist that's there, because yes, they can play together in the NHL on a team right now, but they can't do anything. Like before in the bubble, at least they could go to Tim Hortons, at least they could go to assigned restaurants. Now they can't do squat, and they're really, really hurting. There are players that, you know, when it first started, you know, there are teams that got new players that can't integrate themselves with the players they don't know yet because they're not allowed to. Can you imagine being a big free agent you signed, but you can't get on with your third line winger because you're not allowed to? You can't hang out in the hotel room. You can't go out for beers and wings after the game. You can't get together with any female companionship unless it's your wife. You're not allowed anything that isn't strictly hockey related. Can you imagine eating your sandwich out of a plastic cellophane wrapper? Like, I get it. So I love that they're able to overcome, but I understand conservatism with it because I'm not one of those deniers. I mean, I'm not getting political. That's not what I'm doing. But I'm just saying I understand people that take the conservative approach, and I get both sides of the argument.
I mean, again, like you said, I'm just going to grab something real quick. I'm listening.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Ouch.
Again, yeah, that hurt a little bit.
Walk it off.
Again,
Walk it off.
Yeah, I'm good. Again, it's, you know, that's something that could be, you know, a half hour just in itself.
But if you want to talk the practicality of what COVID has done to the NHL, look no further than the Northern Division versus everybody else. There's the Canadian division, and then you have the three other divisions. And as it's emerging, the Canadian style of hockey in its division is much different than the style of hockey that's being played in the other divisions.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't say it's run and gun, but the scoring is higher. And I am very, very the one thing that will emerge of this is I am very curious to see what happens when one of those Canadian teams makes it to the semifinal, because they're guaranteed a semifinal shot, whoever gets out of it. When they play the Bruins, when they play the Washington Capitals, when they play the New York Islanders, when they play the Vegas Golden Knights, because all of a sudden it'll be tight, wrapped up playoff hockey.
Speaking of the Golden Knights, what was your impression of Vegas?
As when they first expanded there, or how they folded a little bit in the playoffs last year, or what specific to Vegas?
Just like as a team. I mean, their inaugural season, their first season as a team.
I think in their inaugural season, they played above their heads, but they had a good coach in Gerard Gallant. Gerard Gallant knew his system. He might have had some personal demons, but he knew how to coach. And they also had an advantage over when Ottawa came and San Jose came and Atlanta came, etc. Well, not Atlanta, they took over Winnipeg, but any of those teams that came, the Mighty Ducks, they got the scraps. They got the 17th through 20th man on the roster to choose from. Las Vegas got legitimate NHLers to get on their team to choose from. Like, they won't be the cream of the crop, but you're not picking off. I remember when Ottawa had to go with guys like Rob Zaminer. Like, you're not getting Rob Zaminers. They got guys who legitimately could play a second line role on any NHL team. I mean, Fleury. Pittsburgh had to choose between Matt Murray and Fleury, Marc-Andre Fleury. And I guarantee there was some tears shed, but he embraced the opportunity to play there. I think they probably had a good run at it. Again, they're playing with house money. They got nothing to lose. And they won the first game, and they were leading in the second game. They could have easily taken that cup if the bounces had gone right. And that's the hockey gods coming down saying you're not ready yet.
I mean, can you imagine, though? Can you imagine their inaugural season if they did go all the way?
Oh, that would have been nuts.
I was rooting for them, bro. I wanted to see that happen, believe it or not. Like, once I saw them reach this stellar position, and in my opinion, that they shouldn't have been in, like, they should not have made it they shouldn't have even made it to the playoffs, I don't think. You know what I'm saying? And not only did they make it to the playoffs, but they did exceptionally well in the playoffs in their first season. I mean, they don't, their system isn't fully established yet. They're picking from each team, and
But you're forgetting, you're underestimating coaching of Gerard Gallant. Gerard Gallant had coached Florida. Gerard Gallant had coached in the QMJHL to high regard. He had played in the NHL. He had played at a high level in the NHL. Now, being a good player, I mean, Gretzky was a crappy coach. Doesn't mean anything. But he was not a Gretzky-level player. He was a grunt man who could score a few goals. He knew how to get his guys. He got good guys out of the draft. He got good guys out of the expansion draft. They pick off a few free agents. They gelled incredibly fast, and teams get on hot streaks. It can happen. I mean, I can remember years and years ago, Chris Kontos for the LA Kings getting those many points. John Druce for the Washington Capitals getting on a run. Montreal in 93 won 10 straight overtime games. Teams can get on a roll, and they did. And they just about. But the hockey god said, no, son, you're not ready yet.
I mean, you're right. That they weren't ready, but they sure as hell looked ready for a while. They did.
Well, they had just as good a shot as any other team, and they almost did it. Kudos to them. And it goes back to George McPhee as the GM. He knew he played for, or not played. He GM'd Washington for years, and they were a team that underperformed. He left, and guess what? The team that won the cup was built by George McPhee.
Yep. I mean, it was amazing, and I still like Vegas. I'm not one of those hockey guys who it's like, no, this is my home team. That's all I like. Like everybody else. No, I'm not. I'm not that kind of fan. I'm not. If somebody's like that, then that's them. I'm not gonna bash anybody for it, but that's
because
I don't
know. It's funny. I'm 40 minutes east of Toronto. There are two fans. There are Leaf fans and there are hockey fans. Those Leaf fans that dust off their jersey out of the closet every 3 years when they make a run, versus somebody that'll watch Buffalo versus Minnesota at 10 o'clock on a Friday night. I can watch Minnesota versus Buffalo on a Friday night and easily enjoy myself. Those Absolutely. Guys, if it, or the Bruins, there are guys I'm sure that pull out their jersey out of the closet in March who couldn't tell you the second line center in January. There's a difference. There's a difference between a hockey fan and a loyal team fan.
Absolutely. And you can always tell. You can always pick them right away. You can pick them out. And one thing that I've always do is I've always tried to be I always try to find the best in the rival team. Here, obviously, as you know, it's Boston. In Boston, it's any chance anybody gets to bash Montreal. That's all they do. It's Montreal. They bash Montreal, and they bash for baseball the Yankees. It's like
Although
the hatred is.
I was going to say I'm kind of hoping that they bash the Leafs a little bit.
The Leafs over here, anyway, the Leafs are like the laughing stock of everything over here. It's like, oh, at least you're not as bad as the Leafs, where, you come in last every year and, they can't get anything right. But Montreal at least has as much. It's weird, though, because as much as people hate the Canadians here, they respect them. It's like the Yankees, where people will. They're always going to refuse to admit that they respect the Yankees. But the Yankees are respected no matter what, just because of what they've accomplished. And in my opinion, anyways, the Canadians are the Yankees of the NHL, the Yankees of hockey. That's how I look at them.
They're trying. You know what? The thing is, at least I'm sure it's the same with the Bruins. Montreal fans are harder on the Habs than the rivals are. Like when they fired Julian and Ducharme had gone 2 games without a win, there were already articles cutting up Ducharme. 2 games, like the fans are fickle. They're fickle. I've been to Montreal for many a game. They're fickle.
It's the same thing. Same thing here. Like I remember when we first found out that Julian was coming, people didn't like him because he was from Montreal, so people didn't want him. People hated him for that, and then he got fired from here, and he went to Montreal, and then you guys fired him. So, yeah. I mean,
and you know what? His name will probably circle the wagon when the next Boston coach gets fired. Probably will.
Well, maybe. I mean, we've had coaching issues too. I want them to bring Milbury back as a coach and watch him throw some more sticks on the ice or throw affairs.
Milbury, I don't know if any women's group would allow him to be part of any sport. Maybe if he brings in Terry O'Reilly to be his assistant coach or something.
Oh God, I remember growing up. Was it O'Reilly or was it Milbury? It was one of them, and I was young, so it's hard to remember, but which one it was. But I remember it was like almost every game they throw a fit, and he grabs all the sticks. He throw all the sticks on the ice, and he start throwing shit.
I'm sure he tossed the odd garbage can when they were metal.
Oh, yep. I remember that. But it wouldn't surprise me if it was O'Reilly, because O'Reilly was that kind of player too, where
O'Reilly, yeah. Have you ever seen the clip from the 70s when Milbury went into the crowd with his fucking shoe?
I thought that was O'Reilly.
Was it O'Reilly?
Wasn't that O'Reilly? That was O'Reilly. Yeah,
that was Milbury. Could have been O'Reilly chasing a fan with his leather dress shoe.
Yep, and he starts hitting him. That could never happen now.
No. Security wouldn't let it. It was like when that fan in Philly went after Domi, and the fan from Philly fell over the glass.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I remember going to a game in junior. The local junior team, the OHL, Ontario Hockey League, is Oshawa Generals. That's where Bobby played. All the Bruins fans will know Bobby played for the Oshawa Generals. He was number 6 for Oshawa. He was number 4 for them. Okay. Anyways, we went to a game in the early 80s, and that's when the Generals had Dave Andrechuk, John McClain, Peter Sidorkiewicz, and they were playing the Ottawa 67s, and the two teams had gotten into a fight. And over the PA, it says, "Is there a doctor in the arena? Please report to the Ottawa dressing room." And the crowd was just, You don't see crap like that anymore.
No, you don't. Stuff like that just doesn't happen anymore. I mean, it's when, like I said, even back in the 80s, like I remember, watching early 80s, mid 80s, even like Cam Neely, to this day is still my favorite player of all time because, that I personally got to see play on a regular basis. I don't, I was I
His
was
poor,
uh
his
I
poor
was young when
knees.
he played.
His poor knees.
Yeah,
Oh, his knees took a
yeah.
beating. But I mean,
But I just
by the time he was 30, he was done.
Yeah, I remember, I remember some of his games though, and I just loved his play style. I loved the way he played. He was able to, he moved the puck well. He was a goal scorer. He was a big guy. He hit a lot, so he was a tough player. Um,
Well, do you remember who he was traded for? He went. He was a Vancouver Canuck, and they
he
traded
was.
Barry Peterson. Went to the
Yes,
Canucks, and they picked
that's
up.
true.
And then those teams of the Bruins in the late '80s with Régent Lamelin, Andy Moog
Mo.
after he wouldn't play for the Oilers, contract issues came over. He played for the Canadian Olympic team in '88, and those teams were tough. You had Andy Brickley on those teams. Like you had some of those teams, and they made the final in the 89. They made the final one of those years because their goaltending was strong.
It was. It was. I believe wasn't that at the very end of it was Moog and Lemon.
Yeah,
Reggie
Lemelin.
Lemon.
Yeah.
So
Or as the Montreal would say, Régent Lemelin.
I remember him. He was good too, but when Andy Moog came in, Lemon was kind of
because
towards the end
Lemelin was towards the end. He had played for many years for Calgary, and by the time he got to Boston, he was already 33, 34, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean he had a couple good years here though.
He was good, and he hung on probably till he was almost 40. Like he played for a while. Yeah, I really like those late 80s playoff series. Like I'm going down the memory train. You've diverted me off, but I remember like just being a Habs fan, those Montreal Canadian Quebec Nordique playoff series in the mid to late. I remember, and then Montreal played Philadelphia. I'm going to say 87. And they had Ronnie Hextall in net. And Chris Chelios was coming down, and Hextall just came up to the boards and went, ooh! All hell breaks loose. Middle of a playoff
I hated
game.
that fucking guy. Hated that guy. Hated him.
He scored 2 goals.
I hated both of them. I hated hated Chelios. Hated Chelios. And I hated Hextall. Hextall was the dirtiest goaltender to ever play the game.
Would you call him dirtier than Billy Smith? I don't know.
I don't have it. My memory isn't as good as of Smith as it is with Hextall.
But Hextall, do you remember who was the Edmonton Oiler that was crossing the front of the net? The Finnish guy. And I think it was the 87 finals. And Hextall just took his goalie stick, whack, right across the ankle. Done.
That's why I couldn't stand that guy, man. I couldn't stand him. He was always hitting somebody with that monstrous stick of his. He was always hitting somebody.
And now he was the most sought after guy for the Pittsburgh job.
So it was. Those were the days, man. Those were the days.
But to flip back to the COVID conversation, I'm not getting into the bubble stuff. But the one thing that it will affect is the draft this year.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Because the upcoming draft, I mean, hate it or love it, Canada produces in its junior leagues probably at least a third to a half of NHL players. The WHL, the OHL, the QMHL, none of them are playing. So you've got a potential, 90 teams filled with junior age players where the scouts will be like, and not just this year, a year and a half of, So somebody that was 17 last year and 18 this year, there is no scouting on them. I don't know how they're going to. You can, get players to see who does the fastest 50-yard dash, who can last longer doing exercises or wrist shot. It doesn't make up for live hockey.
No, it doesn't.
So how do you do it?
It's not the same.
No, and I mean, there could be that kid that's not in the best of shape. He might not be in the best of shape, but he's a heart and soul player. Was Theo Fleury the most athletic player? No. But any team would love to have had Theo Fleury. So, I mean, looking for the Bruins, Brad Marchand. Brad Marchand's a hell of a player, but he ain't no Connor McDavid in terms of like athletic.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So, like,
I'm still mad.
Go ahead. No, I was just gonna say, Brad Marchand was what, a fourth rounder or something? Like, he was not a surefire NHLer.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the draft is going to take. I don't know how the U.S. college players have been playing, and the kids in Europe have been playing, but not the Canadian junior kids or the Americans that are from the at least a third of the teams are out of the States. Like there's the Saginaw's and all those kind of teams. So I don't know how they're going to do it.
I don't know. The only way they can do it is by films, by watching films. That's really the only. Yeah, that's really the only option.
But if it's a kid that last year was 16. And only played 20 games, and this would have been his draft year.
Yeah,
I don't know how they're going to do it. I mean, you can interview a kid to death, and you can make a kid do, like in the NFL, they're doing these pro days, right? You can have a pro day with the junior team, but that's not the same. Like,
no. It's. I mean, you could be somebody who's terrible, like terrible press wise as far as interviews. They could interview terribly. They could, answer questions terribly, but be one hell of a player. I'd rather have somebody who sucks on the mic, who doesn't know what the hell to say in an interview, but scores 60 goals a season, than have, somebody who has all the answers, who's best player to interview, and yet he only scores like 25 goals a season. So, that shit to me, that shit to me is pointless. Like,
because I mean, the draft is an inexact science to begin with. You could have all the scouts, you could know his percentage of body fat, you could see him play down in the OHL finals, you can interview his mom. It doesn't matter until you hit the ice. So there's that is just at the best of times. So now you got this coming. You're really throwing darts at these
guys. Absolutely. I mean, it's going to be interesting. The most interesting draft, ever. And I'm very excited about next season. I'm very excited about next season because we have a brand new team. We have the Kraken coming.
The Kraken! Bring out the Kraken! And you know what? The draft is set up for them the same way it was for Vegas. And Ronnie Francis is leading that team. They're gonna do their homework. Now, scouting's more of a challenge this year than it was in years past, but they're gonna be on the ball. Ronnie Francis ain't no dummy. And so they're gonna sprinkle in their veterans with their young kids, with their career minor leaguers, and they'll get themselves up to speed, I think, pretty darn quick.
I'm excited. I'm really excited to see the Kraken. And have you seen the jerseys?
Oh, I remember the day they came out.
I love them.
I texted my wife and said, brilliant marketing. I wouldn't doubt if they're in the top 5 jersey sales in the NHL right now.
I love them. What I want to see, I'm calling it right now. Third jersey, okay? Dark blue with the Kraken creature on it.
I'm waiting until they have the Kraken, and then at center ice they'll get like the Ogopogo or some kind of sea creature fighting it. Like I can just see that.
It'll come down from the ceiling like the octopus does in Detroit.
Or they'll somehow Riggets will comes up from the depths, right?
Yeah, right.
There'll be dry ice, and oh my god,
it'll be. I'm looking forward to the first Seattle versus Vegas game. That's what I want to see. Seattle and Vegas. matchup for the first time, I think it's going to be incredible. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that will be
A lot.
that'll be a fun one. But again, I can remember when all the expansion teams, Ottawa and San Jose and Anaheim and all those guys came, and they were just awful. These guys got a real advantage. So, like for example, I keep referring to Montreal because I know them the best. They've got their backup goalie Jake Allen, who they're going to expose Jake Allen. They're not going to expose Carey Price. So a team could take Jake Allen, who right now would be a fringe number one goalie, but he could be a guy that could lead a team for 35, 40 games if you need him to. Now he'd probably have to play 50, 60 games, but he's more than competent to do it. I mean, right now, who's the Bruins' backup goalie? Halak,
yeah.
Halak.
Yeah.
But right now, didn't I just hear that Rask, is he hurt? Is he out right now?
I don't know what's up with him. I've heard different things. He's kind of the same thing with last year where he just left, and I heard a bunch of different things about him too. I heard he left for some people were saying that he left because he didn't want to deal with the COVID restrictions. Some people said he left because he wasn't feeling well.
I thought it was a family thing. He didn't want to leave his family.
Some people said that he did, there was something going on with his daughter. So it's like, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, what's going on with Rask. I hear one thing and then it changes, and he's kind of a mystery.
He's definitely an interesting cat. He kind of beats to his own drum.
Well, yes, I still like Rask. I've always liked Rask. I was a big fan of his when he was in Providence. I followed him from Providence. And speaking of following people from Providence, something that somebody you had mentioned earlier, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate from Bruins fans because of this, but I'm gonna say it anyway because I don't give a fuck. But Brad Marchand, okay, let's focus on Marchand for a second. All right, I want to tell you my thoughts on Marchand. This guy, I followed this guy since Providence. I didn't like him in Providence. Okay, I met him, and when he was in Providence, I also met him on 2 occasions. It's not a positive experience either time. And he came to Boston. I don't like him in Boston. I don't care how many goals he scores. If you're a douchebag, you're still going to be a douchebag whether you score 60 goals or whether you score 25 goals. And just because you're on my team, just because you're a star player on the team, doesn't mean I'm going to like you. You know what I'm saying? And they're like, oh, you're not a real Bruins fan. Bullshit, I'm not a real Bruins fan. But, at the end of the day, I'm still a hockey fan. Okay? Hockey fan. Which means I don't like douchebag players. So I still do not like Brad Marchand.
I thought you were going to bring up Pasternak.
I love Pasternak. Not
that you don't like him, but he could be. I wouldn't say he's underrated, but I would say that he kind of rose from poor. I wouldn't say poor last year, a underwhelming last year to now being what he is.
I can agree with that. I think what happened with Pasternak was very, very subtle. Like, even before last year, before COVID, he had a great year. But prior to that, he was fairly new. He's been playing for the team for years, but he literally just came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, I don't know, he just learned how to play or whatever, but all of a sudden he just boomed and became one of the top players on the team, where he was on the team before and just kind of got forgotten about. He was just another name.
Well, he had to adjust from playing the Euro style, right? So he had to learn to play North American style. And he was young. I mean, sometimes it takes some kids till they're 26, 27 to really, especially if you're coming from Sweden, where you're playing in bigger rinks and you're playing way different systems, to play, okay, we're playing 1-2-2, and you're going to play a defensive system. Well, that's not how they play it in Sweden.
Not at all. But yeah, I love Pasternak. I love Rask. I still don't like Marchand. This dude, he just gives, I just feel no matter what team he's going to be on, though he has gotten better over the last 2 years. I'll say that. He's gotten better. but he's still an ass. He's still an ass. This guy, how is this guy like not had substantial suspensions? I mean, he does. I don't care what any Boston fan says. He is a dirty player. Okay, he has dirty hits a lot. When a lot of times the ref will go and get the puck, what does he do? He hits the guy. He'll stick a guy with his stick. When the ref goes to get the puck or goes to do a face off or whatever, then he's licking people of all things. Like, come on, man.
Was he on the team when Lucic was still there? Because I can only imagine the locker room with those two alpha males in the same locker room. I can see Chara saying, "Just shut the fuck up."
Right? Chara standing over Marchand, who's like 5'4". Chara's like 7'1". He's like towering over him. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I can just see that. Like, go back to your corner. Go.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it was nice to see the Bruins welcome Chara back nicely.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they do a video thing when he was there?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a little disappointed with that. Like, at the same time, I'm glad he's gone because that opens up a lot of cap room for other people and other things for the team.
I wonder how hard did management actually try to retain him?
They didn't.
I mean, he was gonna be honestly probably a sixth defenseman on Boston.
Yeah,
and Washington maybe wanted somebody who, if he plays 18 minutes a game, not even 18, 15 minutes a game, but he can bring along maybe the kid who's just out of junior who needs that. He's perfect for that.
I mean, he could be at the point and give the puck to Ovechkin too, and try to.
And he might. I mean, I would have said try to corral Tom Wilson, but that didn't happen the other night.
No.
What did you think of that? Now, did you think the Wilson deserved 7 games, or did he get it by reputation?
He got it by reputation.
Carlo did get hit, but he didn't leave his feet. He didn't.
No, that was not a 7-game. That was not a 7-game worthy suspension. He got it because he's a repeat offender. That's why he got 7.
But the thing
is, if that was anybody else, they probably would have got, especially this season, knowing that the season's shorter than it normally is, they probably would have got 1, maybe 2, because the season is so short. But he got 7 because he's a repeat offender. If it was a full length season, there's no doubt in my mind. If it was a full 82 games, he would have got 10 games.
Because there's a podcast I listen to for all the listeners to know called 31 Thoughts. Okay. And 31 Thoughts is on, if you go to sportsnet.ca. In Canada, it's hockey all the time. And Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick do what every week. You type in 31 Thoughts in your podcatcher, you'll get it. And they were saying, Elliot Friedman talked to people around the league, and they said, almost any other player, there's no suspension. It would have been nothing. Maybe a fine. But you can't give Tom Wilson 2 games. You can't. You have to either give him 5 or more or fine him crazily. And he got it based on him being Tom Wilson.
He's done it so many times, though. Like,
oh yeah,
again, a repeat offender. Again,
it's almost by instinct. That's the way, And maybe he got away with it when he was 21, but now that he's 30, the league ain't going to put up with it.
No. And again, going back to Marchand was suspended for multiple games too because of dumb shit that he was doing. And his suspensions, even though some of the suspensions were warranted, but the times, the amount of time he was suspended, especially the last time, it didn't warrant the suspension that he was given because he had been in so much trouble prior. He had so many issues prior. Not only did he get longer suspensions, right? He missed 2, not just 1, but 2 Winter Classics. The guy's lucky Boston had a 3rd. He would have missed out.
I had forgotten about the licking thing. That made me laugh. I forgot about that.
I mean, bro, like stuff like that. Yeah, okay, the guy scores 50 goals a season. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. But you're making the whole team look bad. You give the whole team a bad name when you do something like that. Like you're not in juniors. You're not a little kid. You're a grown man who's trying to instigate somebody by licking their face. Like, who does that? You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on.
The thing is, he will go. You get away with that when you get the goals. Once the goals dry up, and they will dry up.
Oh, yeah.
Once the goals dry up, he will start to bounce around. Because nobody's going to put up with that crap or pay the salary if you're getting 13 goals. And that's what it's going to come down to. Once the skills erode, he'll be out of the league by 36. But but while you're getting 50 goals or 40 goals plus, teams will, it sucks, but you know what? You're helping the team.
So let me ask you this, because I've had this debate with so many people. So I got to ask you.
Yep.
Crosby or Ovechkin?
Tough call. I'll take Crosby. Because, see, Ovechkin has the better physical game. And Ovechkin has the dynamic shot. He is a pure goal scorer. It's kind of like the Gretzky versus Lemieux. We had the same argument 25 years ago. But I think Crosby, I don't think if Ovechkin didn't have the guys around him, like he wallowed for 10 years because he didn't have the playmakers with him. I think Crosby gets more out of the guys around him than Ovi does. He's got that Gretzky behind the net, eyes behind his back, knows where to pass. Is he a baby sometimes? Yes. Does he whine sometimes? Yes. Do you want him on the ice in the last 90 seconds? Abso-friggin-lutely. Because he's going to make your wingers. He made Jordan Staal a heck of a player. He's got wingers that get points because... And they can't find them wingers. The problem with Crosby that I've heard is he's tough to play with. Like they've gone through so many wingers with him because he's such, I wouldn't say perfectionist, but he expects a lot. And it's like the Gretzky syndrome. You can't teach what he's got. You can learn how to play defense. You can learn how to shoot. You can't teach a behind the back pass. And that's the problem. Whereas Ovi, I don't think – I'm not saying he doesn't have God-given skill because he has more coming out of his fingers than I'll ever have. But I think Crosby gets more out of his teammates than Ovi does.
See, I agree with you in the sense that, like, if it's between the two, I'm going to take Ovi all day. One, I think Crosby is just a straight-up asshole. I can't stand the guy. Like, I'll play a soundbite in a minute, and I'll ask your opinion on it. Two, I agree with you in the sense that Crosby gets more out of his teammates than Ovi does. I agree and I disagree. I disagree in the sense that Ovi doesn't get out as much as Crosby from his teammates because I don't think he needs it. I think Crosby needs his teammates to feed him the puck. He doesn't go in and dig the puck out, I think, sometimes like Ovi does. Though sometimes Ovi does hang out in front of the net and wait, hope to get a rebound or hope to get a deflection or stuff like that. But there's also times where I see him, in there grinding, trying to get the puck. I've seen him on breakaways, hitting people, just, playing that dirty game. I don't see that from Crosby. I see Crosby, running away from people. I see him instigating people. I see him waiting for the perfect pass for that finesse goal. That's what I see.
Yeah, I mean, there are times, don't get me wrong, when I see stuff that Crosby does and you just go, really? Mm-hmm. But you see, like in the Olympics, chips are on the table. Who got the winning goal? So he shows he's not a lily pad or a wilting lily. He wants to be there with the game. Now, so does Ovi. Ovi's won a cup too. I'm not saying he isn't. But Crosby will always show up for the big game. And it's usually the team around him that doesn't quite keep up.
I agree with that. But as far as Ovi's concerned, if you can score a goal on your back with one hand on your stick, you can do it.
Oh, yeah. Well, when he got through Subban, Subban was a hack. You're like,
yep.
You know, what are you going to do? You can't draw that up on the textbook or in the boards and say you got to – no. He's that 0.1 of 0.1.
So let me play a bit of a soundbite for you, because whenever people talk about Crosby, I talk about this guy's attitude, because Ovi, people talk about Ovi too and how they don't like him and things like that. But just in my personal experience, I haven't seen Ovi really be like a straight up asshole, either on the ice or off the ice. I haven't. Maybe you have, maybe other people have. I personally haven't.
Well, the only time I've seen him be a jackass is when he was drunk.
Now Crosby, on the other hand, countless times, both on the ice and off the ice, just a straight up asshole. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna play you a small clip. I'm not gonna play the entire interview because the entire interview is like 5 minutes long, but I'm gonna play about 30 seconds of an interview, and I'll give you some backstory since you can't see since we don't have the video. I don't feel like linking the whole thing up, but there was a fight. It was I want to say, I forget the team. I want to say it was against the Islanders maybe. And there was a fight between two players. Crosby was on the ice, but he was not involved in the fight, of course. Now the Pittsburgh player, you know how it is, they go and they pick the gloves and the sticks up and all that stuff. So now the player from the opposing team went over to grab the gloves that were on the ice. What does Crosby do? He skates over and he hits the glove away from the player. I'm like, you're just an ass. So they asked him about it. What do you think is... And so let me play you his response to that question. Okay?
Ready.
So when you knocked Voracek's glove was on the ice and you hit it away, was that just out of frustration?
I don't like any guy in their team that's just what was name. They went to pick it up, so they pushed it. So, yeah.
Because what? I'm sorry?
I don't like him.
Why don't you like him?
Because I don't like him.
Did he do something? I mean,
I don't like any guy.
I don't like him. What do you want me to do? Pick it up and hand it to him? I don't like him. I don't like anybody on that team.
I think, honestly, that was him. I mean, I can't defend the action because it was just stupid. But I think he was just kind of running on instinct, running on adrenaline. I think maybe if you asked him, half a day later, he would have had a chance. Because he's just coming off the ice. He's been with his team. So if it was Voracek, it was probably the Flyers. It's an in-state rivalry. It's the Habs Bruins. It's the Leafs against the Bruins. And he probably, and at that point, I don't know at what point in his career it was, but when he was younger, fighting wasn't his game, so he's still immature. I don't know. It's not a response I would have given, It's not a response that, say, a lot of the more veteran players would have. Let's pull it back. Ovi, I don't think Ovi would have said that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see, Shea Weber saying, I didn't like him, so I can't see that happening. But I think part of it was adrenaline and instinct, and he was just so pissed off from the game or whatever. He let that get ahead of, you don't see a Tom Brady, love him or hate him. Brady doesn't give responses like that. And I think at that point, I'm guessing he was probably in his mid-20s. And he was just
8
kind
years
of
ago.
8 years ago. Okay. So he was, what is he now? 31? So he was 23. I don't think he'd give that response now.
I disagree, but okay.
You think he'd still say that?
Oh, yeah. I don't like him. but I'm not in the league, so I can say that. I don't like him. I don't like anyone on that team. Yeah, I'll say, I'm not trying to quote him, but I'm not in the league, so I don't have to sound professional like that. I don't like him, So yeah, I think he would still say it.
It's not as if I'm getting a free jersey from Sydney. I'll tell you that much.
I'm not getting anything from Sydney. I know that. Not after some of the stuff I've said.
I'll take some from Sid or from Ovi. I'll take whatever comes my way.
I got an Ovi All-Star jersey actually. I didn't want a Capitals jersey, so I got an All-Star Ovechkin jersey.
I was thinking about this before we came on, and to completely reverse the topic, which is fine because we veer all over.
Oh yeah.
Who would you say would be coach of the year right now? Which coach do you think has really taken the ball by the horse by the reins and kind of steered them in a place that either they shouldn't be or gotten them from decent to?
To be honest with you, I can't lie. I cannot answer that question fairly, and I'll tell you why.
I don't want to hear Cassidy if it's because it's Cassidy.
No.
If you think it's Cassidy,
I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna say it's Cassidy, but I'm actually not even gonna give you an answer. And the reason why I'm not gonna give you an answer is because I can't give you a fair response because this particular season I've had a lot going on between work. I've worked multiple times double shifts from 6 a.m. sometimes to 11 p.m. So I haven't been able to catch as many games as I've wanted to. So due to that, I can't give you an answer due to just not being able to see enough.
Gotcha. I'm just looking up. I have two answers. My first is Rod Brindamore.
Okay.
Rod Brindamore with the Carolina Panthers. They have no business being as good as they are.
Carolina Hurricanes or the Florida?
Sorry. Hurricanes. Carolina Hurricanes. I'm thinking the football team. The Carolina Hurricanes have no business being as good as they are. They've
Okay.
got a talented team, but I was just looking up the standings right now. Carolina is first in the now Central Division over Tampa, over Florida, and the rest of that division.
Okay.
You can't argue with how many people pick Carolina to come out of that division.
No, I would have never picked Carolina.
The other coach that's getting, I think, the max amount out of their team is Jeremy Collison with the Blackhawks.
Yes.
Before the season began, if you told me Malcolm Subban, who was a number 3 goaltender, can lead a team to the playoffs, we're talking playoffs. The Chicago Blackhawks are in 4th in their division. Wow. Patrick Kane, you could argue, is the MVP of the league right now. I mean, Connor McDavid, I think, will be. And I'm not taking anything away from Connor. Connor is he's the top upper crust of the league. But Patrick Kane and that coaching staff, wow.
Jonathan Toews is still he's still there though.
Jonathan Toews, is he back? Jonathan Toews was.
I thought he was.
He might be.
I thought he was back, but he's still a beast.
Yeah, and they still have some of their defensemen and stuff, but that goaltending has no right to be as good as it is.
No, and I know firsthand because Subban was our backup for a while, and he was also a backup for the Providence Bruins. And I saw a lot of Providence Bruins games with Subban, and I remember going to a game with my buddy, and they would put Subban in net, and we're like, that's it. We're like, there's no point in us even staying. We know they're gonna lose because Subban, we didn't have really any confidence in him, and a lot of other fans didn't either. He wasn't that good, and now all of a sudden that he's in Chicago, he's like this top tier goalie. We're like, what the hell happened to you? Did your brother sit you down and have a pep talk or something? Like, what happened?
I mean, the other guy they have is Alex DeBrincat, who is a really good player. He's short, he's small, I remember watching him play junior. He played on the same junior team as Connor, the Erie Otters. But he's small, not a big man. Like I'm 5'10", which is barely average for a man. I don't think he was as big as I was. I'm sure he's 5'8".
I mean, I'm short. I'm like 5'4", so you would like tower over me. And oddly enough, I played hockey when I played hockey when I was young, and I'm still that small. So I mean, but
I played hockey till I was 16. I played select hockey up to that point. I'm like, I'm not making junior. I'm tired of getting up at 6 a.m. for practice and what have you.
Shit, I was just tired of getting hurt. So
yeah, well, the thing was, my path was once you got to about 16, guys were either really good or they were headhunters. And I didn't want to get up. Certain things in your life at 16 are more important than getting up at 6 a.m. to get smushed into the corner. So I was like, forget it. But
like sleep.
Sleep. Well, you're 16. You're thinking about driving. You got girls on the mend. You got universities around the corner. You're getting a job at I'm not making the junior league, so
I mean, girls like hockey players too, though. So
yeah, I don't know if they like crappy, sweaty ones. I don't know about that. But the Blackhawks, I think, are doing well.
So with that in mind, because it's hard to believe that we've already been at this for an hour. That's crazy. It didn't seem like that. It did. Any predictions? What's your prediction?
Well, push comes to shove, you'd like to think Tampa has it again. And with a fully healthy Stamkos, Vasilevsky playing to his potential, Hedman is one hell of a player. They've got the depth. Andre Palat right now is playing way better than he has in the last little while. I think they've got what it takes. But living in Leafland, everybody here has their dream. And it's tough to argue right now. What's going to take down Toronto is their goaltending. They'll live and die. They always have lived and died by their goaltending. And if you think Freddie Anderson is good enough to get you to the cup, because Austin Matthews, Mitchell Marner, Zach Hyman, blah, 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 they got it. That, and they're a little thin on the D line.
I agree.
Go ahead. No, nothing. Go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No. I was just going to go over the Leaf roster, but you can go right ahead. What do you think of?
I agree with you as far as the Leafs, but I'm gonna go for the long shot here, and I really do think the Leafs are gonna make it far this year. I mean,
guaranteed. The Canadian team is guaranteed the semifinal. So what they have to do is get out of the. Now they have to basically go through Winnipeg, and Connor.
I think they'll be able to beat Winnipeg. I think they're going to beat them.
Hellebuyck is a good goalie. They've got Scheifele and they've got now Dubois. They've got some players, but Paul Maurice, I really like him as a coach. When he was with Carolina, when he was with the Leafs, now he's with Winnipeg. He's a good coach. They'll have to. I mean, they have to get through Montreal. They'll get through Montreal. They have to get through Edmonton. They'll get through Edmonton. So there's that. The other team that you haven't mentioned that I think you have to give a legit shot to are the Islanders.
The Islanders, I'm very impressed with the Islanders over the last couple of years. I mean, I'm really glad you brought that up because I forgot about them. And I was actually having this same conversation with somebody the other day. And now this is a team who was absolutely shit for like the last 10 years. Easy.
Do you remember those Captain Highliner jerseys?
What's that?
Those Captain Highliner jerseys where they had like a fisherman on the front.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Not to now you completely threw me off, but I got to speak on the jerseys.
You hadn't thought of the Island.
I mean, I now that you brought the jerseys up, can I just tell you how I think this is the best year for hockey jerseys in 10 years? I am so loving some of these jerseys that they have. They brought back the Whalers. They brought back the Nordiques.
The Nordiques, they look good on the ice there. They look good.
You know what jersey I'm absolutely in love with right now? The black and like neon green Stars jersey. I think it's the Stars. It's like black and like neon green almost.
Too bad the team couldn't get inspired by them.
I love that jersey though. It's so sick. So sick.
Yeah. The American jersey that I always liked was Minnesota. I think they're a very classically understated.
Yes.
For a new team, they're a good jersey, I thought.
They are. And that's why I can't wait to see, going again back to Seattle. I can't wait to see what they decide. I mean, the possibilities with the Kraken jersey. I mean, you know that yourself. They change jerseys, even designs, like every 3-5 years. So, that Kraken jersey, I can't wait to see what they decide to do with their uniforms.
I can't wait to see their jerseys. And right now, you probably, like I, play the game of, okay, let's pull out the rosters and see what players do you think will be protected and who do you think might be available. And then you start to piece together, they might be able to pull this off, get this guy, are the Bruins going to keep Carlo or, like that kind of thing. And see who their team is going to be. And they're going to end up with a Theo Fleury, a Marc-Andre Fleury kind of guy who's going to kind of be the 33-year-old who's been around but isn't over the top yet. They'll end up with somebody like that.
But again, going back to a little bit earlier, you never know because, like I said, like we talked about earlier, look what happened with Vegas.
You never know. I think they haven't named a coach, have they?
I can actually, let me grab my phone. I can look right now. I want to say they did. I want to say that they do.
I can't recall if they had or not. Because
are they even added to the? Oh, they are added to the NHL website. Okay.
Yeah, because I can almost guarantee the coach will play some kind of defensive system. You have to, because one, pretty much everybody plays that nowadays. But secondly, you're not going to have the natural gifted goal scoring. Like they're not going to let them walk into the league and have the first overall pick, like previous teams had that ability to. And plus,
go ahead.
I was going to say, with the not knowing who's going to be coming out of junior or the draft, anyways, who knows, right? So you're going to be getting like the 7th forward on every team or the 5th defenseman, and that is not conducive. Like Vegas really hit a home run when they got Marchessault.
Oh yeah.
Because Marchessault, when he played for Detroit, was like 7th, 8th, 9th forward. And they were like, okay, he can't really play well defensively. He's got some goal scoring, but we got guys that are better. So he got his shot. And they let him loose because they needed somebody to score. And they picked up guys like Alex Tuck. And, and they've made some nice trades for Pacioretty and such. But,
I mean, like I said, I'm excited. As far, I'm excited as about next season. I'm still excited about what's the playoffs for this season, but next season's gonna be nice. They announced their GM.
Yeah, they haven't announced a coach yet.
Ron Francis is the general manager.
Yeah, I knew Ronnie, and he's been on it for a while. And the coaches' names that have come up the most are probably Gerard Gallant, who led the Vegas Stars or the Vegas Knights.
Yeah, I don't see anything about a coach. So
Bruce Boudreau was floating out there.
That wouldn't be bad.
That wouldn't be bad. Like there's Mike Babcock, who
Julian's available.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And but you know what? Legitimately, he could be a good coach for them because if you're going to play defense and you're not going to have a lot of scoring, there's nothing wrong with him as the head coach because he'll bring structure. There's no doubt he'll bring structure.
He will.
The problem with him is he's got a shelf life. After about 3 years, the players tune him out.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get as much as you can in 3 years.
Absolutely.
But like Mike Babcock, just got a head coaching job this year, coaching the University of Saskatchewan hockey team. Nobody in the NHL would touch him. He had to go to Canadian University to get a job.
Wow.
And Dan Bilesma was out there, who led Pittsburgh to the Cup, but was fired unceremoniously in Buffalo because they were awful. And guess what? They're still awful.
I'm trying to think. What the hell was that guy's name? I'm trying to think of the coach's name. He's a real asshole, though.
Like Torts, but Torts is is coaching.
Tortorella. Yeah, Tortorella.
Yeah, but Tortorella is with Columbus. He's another one who has.
He's still there?
Yeah, he has a shelf life. He has a shelf life, but he hasn't exhausted his shelf life right now. He's still on. He hasn't hit the. He's hit the best before buy, but not the expiry date. he's. But if they don't go anywhere after the next year or so, I think he'll get a job somewhere. Always, he's a hockey lifer.
Oh, and then there's another guy too. I heard that's trying to get into coaching. What the hell's his name? He was a douchebag. He played for New York.
Islanders, Rangers.
What?
Islanders or Rangers?
Rangers. What the fuck is his name?
Ulf Nielsen.
He was an asshole. No, this guy. I hated this guy. What the hell was his name?
And the thing is, you can get a guy who's come out of nowhere for U.S. colleges, or some guy who's coaching in the American League, or some guy that's coaching in one of the Canadian major junior leagues. These days, you have to play the system. And, it's more about managing a group of guys. Because, like in the old days, you could walk in and be Scotty Bowman, and your word was law. Well, that don't happen anymore. Some player will tell you, screw you, and go on Instagram and blast his coach. So it's a new dimension that you didn't have 20 years ago.
I got it.
I mean, who is it?
Well, finish what you were saying.
I was going to say, do you think that Pat Burns, God rest his soul,
oh God,
could survive in the NHL these days?
No,
not a bloody chance.
Nope.
Mike Keenan. Mike Keenan's available. I mean, he's old as fuck, but could Mike Keenan survive in the NHL nowadays? He had to adjust.
Yeah, I think he probably has just as much of a chance of surviving as Mike Milbury would be coaching.
Other than his age, like he went back when he was done with the NHL, nobody would touch him. He went to the KHL in Russia and won a championship in the KHL.
He did.
Like the guy's got his X's and O's, but as I said, I'm half an hour east of Toronto, and the local junior club is Oshawa Generals, who storied franchise, had Bobby Orr and Dave Andrechuk and Joe Cirella and John Tavares and Rick Middleton and blah, blah, blah. When he coached them, they're saying back in the late 70s, he used to get sticks and he would purposely slice them. The players wouldn't know. So when he would walk in the room and hit the stick against the pulp, it was all for effect, eh?
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's such a. Oh man!
But I mean, you could do that in 1978. You can't do that.
You can't do that now. No, you can't even. It's hard to even cut the sticks now, though.
Oh yeah, you're not going to cut a $350 stick. The hell with that.
No. So I'm gonna throw the name out there for you because I remember the person I was just thinking about, and always hated him. Always so glad he's gone. I'm gonna throw his name out there, and you tell me what your thoughts on this guy, Sean Avery.
No. No doubt he has hockey knowledge, but the guy's a dink. Like he's just his head was. He's another Marchand, except without the scoring. Like really, he would get suspensions probably unwarranted, but he would also get suspensions that were very warranted.
Yeah.
And he's the definition of that old disco song. I love the life. I love the party. Well, that was him. I love the nightlife.
100%.
He loved walking down mink jacket with, walking down with some chick on his arm and go to Spago's restaurant. That's Sean Avery.
I forgot who he was dating too, but he was dating like some beautiful model, or he was dating somebody like super famous.
Somebody of note. I
forgot who it was.
I don't pay attention to that, so I don't know.
But one more thing about Avery, real quick. I went to one Rangers game in my life. Now, I'm such a big Bruins fan that I traveled all over the place to see them play. I went to Boston, obviously. I went to Long Island, and I saw the Islanders play the Bruins in Long Island. I went to Madison Square Garden, saw the Rangers play. There was one of the coolest things I saw was there was a special game at the Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence, and it was the Providence Bruins against the Boston Bruins.
Ooh,
that was back.
That was preseason.
What's that?
Preseason kind of thing.
Preseason exhibition. It was Providence against Boston. That's back when Thomas was still with the team.
The Bruins.
Yes. Yep. Thomas was still with Boston, and so getting to my main point. I went to Madison Square Garden to see the Rangers. Now that's when Sean Avery was still playing. So we're now at this time I was just seriously getting back into hockey because I stopped watching hockey for a number of years after the 80s. I just kind of got out of it because I was young and teenager and then early 20s and things like that, and that's not really where your focus is at that age. You're more concerned about partying and all that stuff. So just started getting back into hockey. Go to a Rangers game. This dude was just absolutely out of control. The whole game he was out of control. And then at one point in the game, I shit you not, this dude threw a water bottle into the crowd. I was at the game. He threw a water bottle into the crowd and it bounced off the stone wall in the stands. I had no idea what happened. All of a sudden I hear boom off the wall. I was like, what just happened? And then people started like freaking out and everything, and they threw him out of the game. I was like, this dude seriously threw that? I couldn't believe it. It like blew my mind.
Yeah, he's one of those people that I bet had some adjustment issues after hockey, and he hung on as long as he could because probably. I mean, I don't know for sure. I don't want to slander the guy, but I wonder if he had a post-hockey plan, because with that kind of temperament, it's tough to work a corporate job or become a general manager or become a real estate salesman. Like, what do you do when you're like that,
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, too, is like I look at the game now and I look at stuff, I look at some of the things that happened, like Marchand licking somebody, like some of the hits, and some of the things that have happened. And I'm not even sure if he got suspended for that. He might have gotten a fine, but had that happened now, they probably would have thrown him out of the league if he threw a water bottle that far into the crowd at this point. Like, and that wasn't even that long ago. That was probably, let me see. That was 13 years ago. That's not even that long in the scheme of things.
Where this conversation all started was a coach for Seattle. And I'm going to throw another name at you, because you just said the Rangers of that era. Their coach then was Tom Rennie. Tom Rennie right now is the head coach of Canada's national team if they get an Olympics going. He could be a guy that could do Seattle because he's got NHL experience. He's coached the Rangers. He's coached the Oilers. He's coached junior hockey at the highest level. He wouldn't get starstruck. He's got a very calm demeanor, which a team that's going to be losing a lot, you need a guy that's calm. Tortorella couldn't deal with losing 6-2 every night. He just couldn't.
Oh, God, no.
So, some of the coaches couldn't handle that. So I think Tom Rennie is a name that hasn't been mentioned that could be under the radar. I have no insider knowledge. I'm just thinking out of the box,
I could definitely see that. I can definitely see that. I mean, time will tell. They've got to announce it soon. I would say
on the draft. the
Yeah,
draft.
but I was just about to say that by the draft. I think what we'll definitely know, if not at the draft or just before the draft, we'll know.
Because you think you'd want a little bit of coach input for selecting players for the expansion draft and the entry draft and all that.
Right? We have an Oilers fan in here.
Let's go. You know what? What the Oilers' problem is always going to be goaltending. Mike Smith can go on hot streaks, and Mike Smith can look like all world for 3 straight games, and then he looks like a 35-year-old goalie. Niskanen will drive you nuts. The other one. So they're going to go as far as their goaltending takes them. And the other problem with them is they have the 2 of the top 5 players in the league right now, but they don't have the depth. And that's and it's the pre-Stanley Cup Sidney Crosby Oilers or Penguins issues. They had Malkin, they had Crosby, and they couldn't afford anybody else. And they had a young Fleury. Like they don't. I don't think they. Darnell Nurse is a good defenseman. I don't know that they have enough built up around those 2 to do it.
So I'm gonna wrap this up because we've gone way over the time I thought I was.
We've got new record for your podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I could, and the crazy thing is I could talk about hockey for another hour and a half. But
the conversation is so free flowing. It's like I'm at the pub, just having wings and a beverage.
Absolutely, I could keep going. But if you were to pick an MVP for this year, who would you pick?
I'm not sucking up to the Oilers guy, but I'm going to give it to Connor.
Okay,
but but you could legitimately make an argument for Austin Matthews. You could legitimately make an argument for Patrick Kane. So I think those are your top 3. I don't think there's a defenseman that gets in that running. Jeff Petrie from Montreal leads the league with 10 goals from a defenseman. Hedman's having a really good year. Fleury's having a very good statistical year as a goaltender. But I think just on pure talent and what he does with what he has, I think it has to be Connor McDavid.
I agree. I am gonna throw throw one out there, and you mentioned him earlier. Not just because not strictly based on the stats, but just because I've been so impressed with him. I gotta go. Subban has really stepped up, so I gotta give him some.
He gets credits, but I don't even think he gets the Vezina. Nothing against him, but I don't think he does. And I was going to say one more wild card in here. I just read it before we came on. The Oilers, the Capitals are still leaving hope for Lundqvist to come back.
That'd be nice.
Because their goaltending carousel hasn't been the best this year.
No, not at all. It's definitely been a struggle.
So I didn't mean to derail you. You can go with your MVP.
No, not at all. That was my MVP. I agree with you with McDavid 100%.
I think it'll go if everything stays relatively the same. I think it'll go McDavid, Matthews, Kane, Draisaitl, and I don't know who'll go 5th.
I definitely agree with you with McDavid. He's on another level.
You can quibble. Did you see the goal that Matthews scored last night in overtime?
I had to work until 10 o'clock. I missed it.
Oh my gosh. Go back right now. Go to ESPN highlights or whatever your local sports channel is and look it up.
Who scored
it? Austin Matthews last night.
Matthews. Let's see.
Like you're gonna go. It's God-given talent. You just can't.
Against what was that? Against Winnipeg.
Yes. Like it was just.
Was it in overtime? Oh shit!
Yeah, like
Wow!
there's no denying.
Wow! Unreal!
Yeah.
Unreal!
Oh, yeah, and Patrick Kane has scored some stunners too, and Draisaitl has done just as much, almost as much as McDavid has, but I think McDavid takes it by a hair.
Yeah, he's just been phenomenal. He's on fire. He's on fire for
Well,
sure.
Tom, I've had an excellent time, and
Absolutely. And not to cut you off before you go, what do you have? What do you have going on? What
for anybody that knows me from other than my sports, the only people that know me this passionate about sports are my friends who have known me for 47 years. Those are the only people that know it. I'm a horror podcaster, and I am on 2 horror podcasts. One called Land of the Creeps. Go to landofthecreeps.blogspot.com. It's a horror podcast. It's between 4 to 6 hours long. So if you have a shift that you're doing at work, it might get you at least half your shift done. In a fun way, we have analysis of the movies. We pick a theme. The one we have out right now is all about killer sharks, and we'll have one coming out about killer crocodiles. And I alligators and crocodiles, and I'm working on one right now. Where in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to watch 12 Godzilla films.
oh shit. Godzilla versus Kong is gonna be sick.
If that's coinciding with that, right? So, but Land of the Creeps has Dr. Shock, Dave Becker, and it's hosted by Greg Morgan, Greg Immortus. Fantastic. You're going to watch it, love it. Check it out. Google Land of the Creeps podcast. And I'm on another one called Phantom Galaxy with a good friend, Nathan Bartlebaugh, where we talk science fiction, horror, fantasy, action, movies, books, music, animation. I'm not as much into the sci-fi, but I love it because they educate me, because I bring the horror, they bring the sci-fi fantasy, and together it's a lot of fun. So look up Phantom Galaxy, but I would love to come back another time, Tom, because you know what? There's no research needed. We just shoot the shit.
And I will also all that stuff that you plugged, I will include links to all of it with this post. So
and I appreciate it, Tom. And the next time you have one of those horror discussions, I want to be included in that too.
Once a month. I'm doing that once a month.
Okay.
So yeah, send me links to everything. I'll post it with all this. And yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in.
Thank you.
Hold on.